Welcome everyone. This video I'm going to talk about my all-time favourite rig. I used to catch a lot of trophy mulloway offshore. Okay, it's a question I've been asked a lot, especially when I was back down south, and what the best rigs is for live baiting for Jewfish offshore, for mulloway offshore. And honestly, a lot of different rigs work. And I grew up in fishing Victoria, New South Wales and southern Queensland, so I spent most of my life up and down the bottom half of Australia, and of course, honestly, probably hundreds of Jewfish over my lifetime. I've caught a lot, and 90% of them actually have been offshore. I worked out how to catch them offshore on the close reefs, and it's good fun. I've used a lot of different rigs over the time, guys. Some of you will agree with this, some of you won't, but that's okay. This is a rig that's worked for me, and it's caught me a lot of fish to like 60 odd pound, okay, on offshore reefs. And a hell of a lot of fish, around a 30 to 40 pound, like a lot of fish that size. It's a very quick, simple, easy rig to make. I'll even tell you how to use it properly for best success, and later on I'm going to do other videos on Jewfish offshore, and I'll explain more about the gear, and I'll even tell you my favourite baits and what works really well offshore, bait wise, okay? But this one, let's just get into it, okay? Let's do the rig. The rig is very simple, guys, it really is. So when I'm chasing Jewies offshore, the rig, my fall-to rig, the one I always go back to, is this one. So we've got 80 pound leader, okay? I always run an 80 pound because you don't know if the Jewfish you get off hooks like 15 pound or 50 or 100, you just don't know. These fish can be any size out there, and okay, so I run an 80 pound leader just in case you hook a big girl, which does happen quite a bit. Once again, like all my other videos, snapper, whatever else, whatever I'm chasing, I usually run BKKs, and for this I run 8.0s, okay guys? I always run an 8 to 10.0, usually an 8.0, and not circles. I don't run circles on live baits, I never have, I don't like them, and with the way we're fishing here it won't work, okay? So we're just going to get 8.0s, and we're going to octopus. Just your normal octopus hooks, or old school suicide. Okay, so 8.0 suicide, octopus, whatever you want to call them. And usually in a BKK, very strong, very sharp. So you got two hooks. The other thing I do is usually about an 8-ounce sinker. I've got the egg shaped here. I usually use balls or egg shaped. And surprisingly, I use Lumo. If you can get Lumo ones or make them yourself, use Lumo. For some reason, it seems to help. If you can't, just your normal stock standard sinker is fine. You are running live bait, so if the Jewies are there in your spot, they will find the live baits. But I don't know, I just like using the Lumos because over the years I've caught a lot of fish in Lumo sinkers. They seem to work for me. And of course some big fish on with Lumo sinkers. So your sinker. And then after all that, all the Lumo's peeling off, this thing's old. After all that, then you just want normal little green bead. So basically guys, all we're going to do here is just make a snell rig. Okay, so usually I run about a 3 metre leader. I usually make 3 metres, but I'm only going to cut a short one because I'm just demonstration. So usually about 3 metres of 80 pound. And then I'll tie it to my main line with like your FG knot or something like that, you know. Or you can use a swivel if you like, and a shorter leader and swivel, your call. But what we're going to do is just make a flatline, a snelled rig, not a flatline rig. No, it is basically. So bottom hook, always just tie on with the uni knot. Stock standard. There's nothing different about this. Surprisingly, when I talk about the baits, guys, when I do the next video and I talk about what baits I use, that might surprise you. Yeah, so I'll talk about baits. I'll run the stock standard baits, which you all run and you all know about. I'll talk about them. But there's a couple of different ones, especially one, and it will really surprise you, and it does work really well on Jew, if you can find them. Okay, so that'll probably be the next video when I sit down and talk about baits. So I just tie the bottom one on. We're just making a snelled rig here, guys. That's all we're doing. But in a bigger version than snapper. Most of the time we're running like things like Yakkas, sometimes slimies if you can find them. I don't use mullet offshore. I don't find mullet works very well offshore. It works very well in rivers, but offshore, no. Pike, if you know how to catch them offshore, I'll even show you that little secret in another video. But generally, if you know what sort of baits are in the area, what you're going to catch, just adjust your hook, accordingly, the length for the baits in your area. So I'm down south, I'm going to be using some pike. So I'm going to put rather a big gap there, okay? For my snow, I'm going to be using pike. And like I said, I will talk about them in another video. And another bait, which you'll be surprised about. So that's just the way I do them. Nice big. Once again, stock standard, little green bead. And a big 8-ounce sinker. That's it. That's my offshore Jewy rig. I've used every rig under the sun, caught fish on most of them, but this one seems to outfish all of them. Okay? Especially when you're fishing like the outside edge or the bottom edge of reefs. Not on top of reefs, I've talked about it before. You want to be on the outside edge or the bottom edge of reefs, where the bait's circling and the current's going over the reef, the bait's on the reef, sometimes gets swapped, pushed off the reef. You got your big snapper and your jewies circling around the outside edge and the bottom edge of the reef, ambushing the bait as it comes off the reef. And jewies being a lazy critter, they'll sit behind the reef, out of the current too, because they're a lazy fish, they really are. So, there's your rig. But a lot of people don't, when I take them fishing, can't get their head around this rig. They keep on tangling it up and wonder why. So what we're going to do now is talk about how to use this rig for better success. Okay. So, big Snelled rig, that's all it is. With a big 8-ounce sinker. I like Lumo, but it doesn't matter what colour sinker, you've got a live bait on. Your rubber bead and a couple of 8/0 hooks. When we bait this up, it's stock standard baiting up. Top hook here, through the nose of the livey. This one down near the tail, pierce lightly under the skin. That's it, stock standard. When you put them in the water, drop your rod, put your bait on the water very gently. Don't drop it in or flick it in, just drop it the side of the boat very gently. And then, on your outfit, when your bait's going down, this is where people mess up with this rig. They drop this, they just free spool it and let it go down. And all that does is your sinker goes shooting down fast, but your live bait stays up here and your sinker's now sinking, and your live bait's up here. Next minute you're swimming around your main line and you get one big massive tangle. I said, don't do that. Have a controlled drop. You're only fishing shallow reefs or Jewfish. You're only fishing 20 metres, 30 metres of water. It takes a few seconds to get to the bottom. It doesn't take long. So just be patient for 20 seconds, 30 seconds. It doesn't take long. If you're using overheads, have your thumb on a spool and just have a controlled drop. Just so it's nice and steady. So your sinker stays in contact with your live bait all the way down. So just a nice steady drop all the way down. Okay, don't free spool it at all. Because if free spool it, the sinker will take off, the live bait will stay up higher in the water column and big massive tangle. I've seen it so many times. Just have your thumb on a spool and just have a slow, steady, controlled drop. Keep the sinker in touch with the live bait all the way to the bottom. And if you're using a spin reel, same deal. Just have your finger on the spool or running through your fingers and just have a slow, steady, controlled drop. Okay guys, don't free spool it. Free spool is just going to hurt you, it's not going to work. And once you get to the bottom with this rig and a live bait on, get to the bottom, you know you're on the bottom, you're not going to miss it with a 8-ounce sinker, you'll know when you're on the bottom. Reel in gear, wind up probably 3 turns, so the sinker's anywhere roughly about half a metre to a metre off the bottom. That's where you want to be, half a metre to a metre off the bottom. Okay, now have your drag set. What we do is put the reel in gear, you put your ratchet on if you want the ratchet, stick the rod in the rod holder, in gear, but your drag set, and that's it guys. It's the simplest way to fish and it works really well in jewies because most 99.9% of the times these fish will hook themselves. You'll know when you're on because your rod tip will be buckling over like pulling down, touching the water, just go pulling down like mad. But remember what I said about drag, don't have your drag locked up. So if you have your drag locked up, a couple of things are going to happen. You're going to either pull the hooks on the fish, you're going to break your rod or break your line, or something's going to break and give. Have your drag set properly so there's enough drag there for the hooks to sit into the hard mouth of a Jewfish. You've got a hard mouth, have enough drag there to set the hooks, but not so much when you're going to break your rod or break your line. So just a bit of common sense about the drag, have your drag, Don't worry about 15 kilos, 20 kilos, all that shit, that's going out the window. No one's running that for Jewies, no way. I usually, most of the time when I'm chasing these fish offshore, I've got 15 kilo line and my drag set at 5 kilos. That's it. It's 1/3 the break and strain. When I set it that way, it's more than enough drag to fight a Jewfish. You don't break your rod, you don't break your line, and you very rarely miss and pull hooks. Okay? So set your drag accordingly. Don't worry about these high-end reels and 20 kilo drag, all that BS. Okay? So that's it, guys. That's all I wanted to really talk about. It's just this rig. Once again, snelled rig, oversized snelled rig, that's all it is. And just for yakkas, like the main bait we use is yakkas, sometimes salami, pike when you can get the pike. And once again, I'll explain that in another video, hopefully. Oh, not hopefully, I will do that for you guys. And another secret bait that I've used over the years and Jewies love. You can wait for that one. That'll be in the next video. I'll talk about that bait. And that bait's more down the cold country. So southern New South Wales, Victoria. You can get it like northern New South Wales, southern Queensland as well at times. But it's a really good bait for Jewie and most people won't use it and don't even know about it. But that's the rig. That's what we're talking about. Control drop to the bottom. Once you're on the bottom, wind up 3 turns or something, so it's about 1/2 metre to 1 metre off the bottom. Rod and a rod holder in gear. And usually offshore you're sitting in there in a bit of current, so your rig's going to sit like that, the bait's going to be sitting this way in the current, just sitting there swimming like that. That's it. He's not going to get tangled, he's not going to swim around in circles, he's just going to stay under the boat, just off the bottom, just sitting there swimming in the current like so. Happy as Larry, apart from a couple of hooks and a couple of piercings. Okay? And Jewies, with this rigs in the rod holder, drag set, you very rarely miss. Getting the fish to the boat, well, that's another story. That depends on the size of the fish and the gear you're using. But that's your call. But that's the rig. That's the one I found works best. All up and down New South Wales coast, southern Queensland, even Victoria when you're fishing the shallow reefs offshore for Jewfish. Try that rig, guys, with live baits. Night time, it does work well. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you again next week with another video on Jewies. And I think, like I said, the next one's on bait fishing, what type of baits I use. We'll see you then, guys.